Hello everyone. This is Ashiqur Rahman Imran and today I'm with Observer and Observable in React extension with C# programming language. So earlier I already discussed about the Observer and Observables. So how to use these things with Reactive extension in C#. So Observer and Observables. There are two key types to understand when working with Rx, like ReactiveX, and a subset of auxiliary types that will help you to learn Rx more effectively actually. So the two key types are observer and observables. So this is a diagram and there is an observer and observer has subscribe and we can perform subscribe operations like we prepared some functionality in observer and we can perform this operation and we can finish that job. So primarily we create observer. So observer contains three functionality already I have discussed in my last tutorial. One is on next, another one is on error, and on completed. So now I'm taking a project and writing this course. Reactive extension of app. So I'm taking this project as a console app.NET Core. Okay, so the primary project creation is done. But one important thing that when we are working with ReactiveX, then there is a library. So I'm downloading that library from NuGet Package Manager. So I'm browsing. I'm writing Reactive here. So system.reactive.NET Foundation. So I'm installing. This is the latest stable version with 4.1.2. So I'm installing this one. So my installation is done. Now I'm taking a folder here. The folder name is ReactiveX. So what I'll do here, so I'm taking a folder core, so it will contain the core components. So as I have described that the core components are IObserver. I'm taking this interface and the item should be public, and I'm taking another interface. So the interface name is IObservable. So in this text content IObserver, and there is a keyword in, and there is a generate type parameter here. So we have three new keywords here: in, out, and reference, and each one contain different features. So if we are using in, then we cannot change value after the method. So the interface should be public, and I'm taking this generic parameter with in. So the observable, oh sorry, this observable. So in observer I'm taking this generic parameters, so with in keyword, so the observer is done. So we have three basic functionality in observer. So I am preparing these functions. One is on next. So on next should be void because we are using in, so our parameter value will be passed automatically to our observable. Void on next t value, void error on error, so exception ex, void on completed. So these are the three functionality, and we need to use these items. So this method call the next observers, and this method perform for error. This method perform termination. So these are the three basic functionalities. So what is here? Provide the observer new data. So on next is providing sequentially the new data, and on error is notifying the observer that there is some error, and on completed, so it provides the finishing state and send push based notification that the observer has to finish. So these are the functionalities done. So now I'm going to observable. So if we are working with observable, it has out generic type parameter. So why out? So difference between ref and out. So if we are using reference here, then we have to initialize the value before, but if we are using out parameter, then we can initialize that value inside of the another methods. So I am creating this observable and generic parameter with out, and id is possible subscribe, and it will contain observer type t and observer. So notify the provider that an observer is to receive notification. So this is this type of provider, so notify us for receive notifications here. So our observer and observable is done. So after preparing these two core features, we'll prepare the method that we needed. So right now I'm preparing two new folders, observers and observables. So here I'm taking a class. So the class name is print current date in millisecond. observer. So we can implement that observer interface here, and I'm taking datetime here, so we can implement that interface. So the subscription is done. So after preparing the observer, then we'll get back here again. Sorry, mistakenly I prepared that file in the, oh sorry, I called the wrong interface. So sorry, I just call the observable here. So if we implement this interface, so what we get here? So I'm writing here that the observer has completed on so I'm printing the millisecond time that we can check, because when we are writing code it executes so faster, so we have to check it in millisecond. So that has some error, and the error printing is also done, and we'll print the current date time here. So we also, right now I also print this with millisecond again. So our observer is done. So now I'm preparing the observable for this. Print current date in millisecond observables. Again, I'm implementing the observable interface here for subscribing that observer. So the item is done. Now what I want to subscribe here actually, so I want to subscribe the observer. So observer on next date time dot now. I'm calling this on next free time. So I'm finishing that item on complete. So the observer subscription is finished. Now I'm returning. So with this library reactive disposable, there is a method class disposable and it has empty. So our subscription is also done. So our basic work is finished. So now I am going to our main function. So I am preparing console read key that we can see the value. So I'm just creating the instance for the observable. So what is the observable name? Print current date. So the observable instance is done. So now I want to create the observer instance. So print current date with millisecond. So the observer instance also done. Now I want to perform the subscription. So I'm calling the previous instance, which is observable instance. So I'm calling the subscriber and I'm just sending the observer here as a parameter. So now our work is done. The setuping the observer and observable in the main function. So I'm just running the application. So what it actually does. So first on next called on 516 millisecond and the next one 586 and the third one 588 and the observer has completed on 589. So after finishing that item then the observer has completed. So in this way we use observer and observables. So this is very important thing and all the thing I have written here. Finally we'll subscribe the instance of observer to observable. The subscription will perform the observers. After that subscription will terminate the observer. Finally the subscription will disposed. So these are the things we need to learn for observer and observables. And thank you very much and stay connected and get something new every day.